Good evening, everyone. Welcome. My name's Andrew Martin. I'm Dean of the College of Literature, Science, and the Arts, and I'm pleased to welcome you to our second community forum on our diversity, equity, and inclusion plan. Last academic year, we as a community worked very hard to put together the DEI plan that was released at the end of August. Hundreds of people in the LSA community contributed a great deal to the plan. And now we're here to have a conversation about what's in the plan, what's not in the plan, and most importantly, how we can make the plan even stronger. We're here today to talk about a topic that's crucial to the future of not only the University of Michigan, but also the College of Literature, Science, and the Arts. The process that led to our strategic plan was a long one. Many of you shared your experiences, your hopes, and your frustrations. Many of you have already made suggestions and have provided insightful critiques of what's in the plan. For those of you who have been involved up until now, thank you. And for those of you who are here with us today, thank you for being here and being part of this discussion. The input that we've gotten to date has made the plan even better and have, in fact, made it possible to get done. I appreciate your participation here this evening because diversity, equity, and inclusion must be more than a slogan. Now, perhaps more than ever, we need to embrace the proposition that diversity makes us stronger and better, and that access, despite the historic barriers created by inequalities based on race, ethnicity, gender, socioeconomic status, and other sorts of social identity, is an essential part of any meaningful DEI efforts. This will require real mechanisms for creating a campus environment where all students, faculty, and staff feel welcomed and valued, and where everyone is able to take full advantage of the resources and the opportunities that make the College of Literature, Science, and the Arts the premier public liberal arts institution in the nation. As I mentioned, this is the second of our community forums. Tonight's topic are graduate students and graduate education. This, of course, is something that we spend a great deal of time working on within the college in partnership with Rackham, and I'm pleased that one of the Rackham Associate Deans is here with us this evening to be part of this conversation. Tonight, we're going to focus on the sections of the plan pertinent to graduate education. If you're interested in other plan sections, and I hope you are, I encourage you to attend some of the other forums that we'll be conducting. We'll be conducting 2 tomorrow, and also provide feedback via the web. Information about how to provide additional feedback is available in the back of the room, where you can get these cool stickers. The discussion today is going to be led by Associate Dean Liz Cole. Liz is the Associate Dean for Social Sciences and played an incredibly important leadership role in terms of getting our plan together. She's also someone who's been working tirelessly on this campus surrounding issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion, both as a graduate student and now as a faculty member here in LSA. We also have a number of other folks in the leadership team as well to be here and to be part of the conversation. So before I turn things over to Liz, I just want to thank you all for being here, for being willing to come and have this conversation. I really look forward to hearing what you all have to say, which will ultimately make our plan even stronger. And so Liz, can you please take it from here?
Well, I want to join Andrew in thanking you for being here tonight. And I'm going to start by telling you a little bit about the format that we have planned. I'm going to talk for about 20 minutes just to give you some background. We're going to talk about what we mean when we say DEI, which is a phrase that's been floating around campus a lot lately. We're going to talk about some recent initiatives across all the areas of the LSA plan, some upcoming efforts, and then we're going to have time to really talk about what's in the plan. We have sort of some structured activities to lead you through that, and there's also going to be plenty of time for just open comments and Q&A. So really most of this session is for us to be here to hear your ideas. And with that in mind, let me tell you what our goals are. So we want to share some information about the plan. As you know, the plan went live to members of the LSNA community, so you had a chance to read the plan yourself, but we also recognized that it was a lengthy tome. And so we'll share a little bit of information in case you haven't had time to go through it. Then we want to get your feedback. We want to hear how you'd like to be involved going forward, and also hear your concerns and ideas. And as Andrew mentioned, this isn't the only forum at which we'll hear your ideas. You can go to our website, and I'll give you the link at the end, and you can submit your comments. We also have cards available, so if there are ideas or thoughts that you have today and you don't get to share them with the group, we hope you'll take a minute and write them on the cards. We have a committee and a structure that processes all that feedback and responds to it, so you're not just going into some inbox that has no person behind it. We're eager to hear what you have to say, and we view the plan as a living document. So what you have in your hand and what I'm going to talk about today is a draft, but we're going to take the feedback, we're going to talk about it some more, and we're thinking that around December we'll have something that's closer to final. Okay, so let's start by talking just a little bit about why diversity, equity, and inclusion matter. And in our conversations around the college, we've talked about this in two ways. And the first is that it's part of our responsibility as a public institution to serve people from every background. And in this, I think we're really kind of guided and inspired by the words of President Angel, who talked about this as part of the mission and envisioned the University of Michigan as a public university that would provide, quote, an uncommon education for the common man. Okay, we want to provide an uncommon education for the common man and woman and people who don't identify with a gender, but that basic idea that we're here to provide this and have access to everyone who is ready to take advantage of it, that is still what guides us. The second thing that we think is really important is that diversity is central to excellence. And I think you hear people claim that sometimes. Sometimes you don't hear them talk about the reasons that we believe that. Some of our own LSA faculty have done incredibly influential work that has demonstrated just that. So some of you might be familiar with the work of psychologist Pat Gurin, who's done longitudinal research with generations of Michigan students showing the educational benefits that come from being educated in diverse settings. And those benefits come when people have the opportunity to interact with people who are different from themselves. And she's shown that it has impact on students' intellectual engagement and their commitment to participate in citizenship when they leave here. So part of offering this education, this rich, diverse education, is to make our students better citizens. Others of you might know of the work of Scott Page, a political scientist who's also in complex systems, and he's shown that diverse groups come up with better solutions even than brilliant individuals, that when you bring people together with different kinds of experiences and give them complex problems, it's the diverse group that comes away with the best answers. We are committed to the idea that we're going to need to make the most of our human capital in the state, in the nation, to solve today's social, political, and scientific challenges, and not just the challenges we face today, the challenges that we're going to face in the future that haven't even been defined yet. So DEI matters for all these reasons. But another thing that we hear a lot when we talk about DEI is, what are you even talking about when you talk about diversity? And I have to say that we've made a conscious decision to leave that pretty open-ended because it can take so many forms, and what we really want to do is change our campus in a way that it is, becomes more so a place where everyone can come here and have an opportunity to thrive and succeed when they leave here. So when we say diversity, we're talking about many dimensions. We're talking about race and ethnicity, we're talking about gender and gender identity, we're talking about sexual orientation and socioeconomic status, we're talking about the languages that people grow up with and bring to campus, their culture, their national origin, their religious commitments, age, disability status, and even political perspective. We want to create this campus to be a place where we have that kind of rich community to think together better and create those better solutions. So in our planning, we didn't work from a specific definition, but we were particularly interested in aspects of diversity that are associated with disparities. And again, because we want this to be a place where people from all backgrounds can come here and succeed and thrive. But we also recognize that creating a diverse community and a diverse university doesn't just happen. Okay? There are patterns of past discrimination that are enduring. There's structural inequalities that present barriers to success. And taken together, what those mean is that even when you have a situation where there's equality of access, we can't expect to see the same equality of outcomes for everyone. And Associate Dean Angela Dillard found us this great graphic. And what she shows here is the difference between equality and equity, right? Equality might be that everyone has access to the same thing. But because we come here from different backgrounds, different kinds of preparations, different kinds of skills and talents, not everyone needs the same thing to end up in the same place, to have that view of the future, that view of the world, right? So when we talk about equity, we're really talking about, in some ways, leveling the playing field so that everyone can succeed. And that's what this picture is trying to convey. Being an inclusive university means we're going to make deliberate, thoughtful efforts to identify the different needs that people bring and to meet them for all the members of our community. Now, diversity, equity, and inclusion, I feel like, is kind of becoming a buzzword. Rob Seller's office often uses this little kind of analogy to help us think about it. They compare the process of trying to make this a more inclusive community to the process of planning a party, right? So they say that diversity means that everyone can come to the party, which I think is a way of thinking about access. If we had more equality of access, we'd have a more diverse community. Everyone could come. Equity means that everyone gets to contribute to the playlist, right? So everyone gets to both contribute resources and have access to resources. And then finally, inclusion means everyone gets a chance to dance. So there's access to full participation for everyone, right? So barriers like different levels of family income can mean that even though our students all come here to the same campus, they can't all participate in the same way. So when we're thinking about our DEI plan, we're thinking about how do we create more of this access, access to the university, access to resources, and opportunities for full participation. So we commit to pursuing deliberate effort, and I keep using that phrase, deliberate effort, because I feel like this planning process has been a real moment where we're thinking about the values that we held even as we went into this process, but we're being more deliberate about it, making deliberate effort to ensure that our campus is a place where difference is welcomed, different perspectives are respectfully heard, and where every individual feels a sense of belonging and inclusion. Now, as Andrew mentioned, we're going to focus tonight on the graduate initiative. As I move into that and talk about the planning process that went into that, I want to really emphasize that even though our document is long and even though in each of our presentations you'll see that we had different process paths to get to those sections of the document, there really is a way that our plan, I think, is deeply integrated, right? So, for example, many of our faculty-focused initiatives are aimed to improve climate for all students, and I think for graduate students in particular. So if you come to our session tomorrow, you'll hear about our new efforts to really recruit and retain a world-class faculty whose teaching, research, and service will contribute to diversity and equal opportunity in higher education. Having that faculty here will improve the climate and educational experience for students. Another way that you can see our plan is interconnected is in the Rackham Town Hall forums. One idea that was expressed was that graduate students often get involved in DEI efforts on campus. They see a gap, they feel like faculty aren't responding, and those efforts take a lot of their time and energy, and some of them feel that this is a burden. Well, our plan aims to recognize and reward faculty for their DEI-related work. We're doing that in a lot of different ways you can hear about tomorrow. And this should help decrease the burden on graduate students. Graduate students will still have the opportunity to be involved if they choose to, but we don't want to have a climate where graduate students feel like if they don't do it, it won't happen. Okay, so our plan, taken as a whole, I think all the pieces support each other. So how did we get to the planning process around graduate education in LSA? So we envisioned this, the graduate student part of our plan, as a process that we would really undertake in partnership with Rackham. And we've been in communication with Rackham about many of the efforts that they both have envisioned and want to encourage us to participate. So you'll hear that in some of the things I'm going to talk about. And we took those ideas to an ad hoc committee composed of faculty who had been very involved in graduate education in their own departments. And they were very helpful in helping us think about which are the most fruitful ideas, which are the ideas that they think we already kind of have a toehold on, and we use that to refine some of the ideas we had got from Rackham. And then we were informed by the ideas that we heard from students at the Rackham Town Halls. I also feel like if we're going to talk about what brought us here to this moment, the process that brought us here, it's really important to acknowledge the contributions of the students in 2013 who participated in the hashtag BBUM movement. They pushed us for action. They made their experiences very legible, clear, poignant, and I think they get a lot of the responsibility and the credit for the conversation we're having today. And at this moment, when I'm acknowledging this, I also want to point out that we're having this conversation right now, just a few miles away from Eastern Michigan University, where they've recently had an incident of racist graffiti and student protest in response to that. So this is a national conversation. It's a conversation I think that Michigan and LSA have been in the vanguard of for a long time. But I want you to understand that for those of us who've worked on this, real cognizance of kind of where we stand in history has been driving and motivating this effort. Now, because all the parts of our plan are interlinked and because we're only going to talk about graduate education tonight, I wanted to highlight a few of the things that we've been doing in the other sections of the plan and that we've already made progress on, because we're proud of that, and we think that it's going to give us momentum as we move into the implementation phase. Last year was a planning year, and we're facing a 5-year horizon for implementation. I don't know if everyone realizes that. But even so, we were able to initiate some new efforts, and let me highlight a few of them. One of them is that we created a new position of staff DEI officer, and it's Letitia Cunningham, Letitia, are you here? There she is. I hope you'll all get to meet her. And we're thrilled to have her on our staff. She brings really a great depth of experience and a lot of energy to her position. And again, we feel that, and we know that many students have meaningful, influential interactions with staff. Sometimes we hear students talk about some of those are their most important relationships during their time at Michigan. We think supporting staff and training them will enhance students' experience. Another really exciting initiative that we kicked off last year was the pilot laptop loan program. This is for admitted students who are from the lowest socioeconomic status, and we recognize that some students come to campus without a laptop in hand, and that can be a real hardship, not only for doing assignments, but also some faculty want to have exercises in class that require a laptop. We really felt that if you came here without a laptop, that posed a disadvantage that meant that that's an inequity, right? So we've created a program to, actually the laptop becomes, they have it the whole time they're here, right? So they carry that with them, and it's loaded with all the programs they'll need while they're here. And what we're trying to do is address the digital divide for low SES students, help recruit them to LSA, and then retain them here successfully through graduation. Another thing we did this year that probably wasn't visible to you if you weren't a department chair is that every year when we do the merit raises for faculty, we have a list of criteria that might single out faculty for special merit, and we have a special fund to recognize that, and usually it's targeted for things like good teaching, and it still is. But this year we added DEI work to the criteria that we would use to decide who gets those special raises. So there's a place where we were saying, this matters to us, we're going to reward it. It's not going to be thankless work, and we've implemented that already. And then finally, last year, the undergraduate ed division conducted a review of the race and ethnicity requirement. And although, and actually when we talk to undergraduates, that's usually the thing that they care most about. Although the committee found that they thought that the requirement overall was in really good shape, they came up with a lot of really exciting, innovative ways to improve it, like having more courses on global R&E, having R&E courses that involved community engagement. So we hope that those efforts are going to result in a more vibrant R&E requirement that our students can benefit from. Okay, so let's move into talking more specifically about graduate education. We envision this plan as building on some of our existing efforts, and you'll see that we have a strong emphasis on recruitment. And so what I want to do here is highlight first some of the things we're already doing, and then talk about the ways we plan to expand those efforts. Okay. So the first thing that we're already doing and that we plan to expand has to do with bridging master's programs. So these are programs that are offered in certain departments, and they're aimed at students who are good candidates for graduate study, but maybe didn't get the research experience in their undergrad training that would prepare them to go right into a PhD program. So certain of our departments have already launched these. This is something we want to continue to look at and possibly expand to other departments. Another thing that we currently do, we intend to continue doing and hopefully expand, is preview recruitment weekends. These are really important events where students can come here, get a taste of what Michigan has to offer, meet the students that they will be with, and just a personal anecdote. So Andrew mentioned I was a graduate student here. When I visited the university, I won't even tell you how long ago that was. It was meeting the other students in the program that I had applied to who would be my classmates that made me decide I didn't want to go anywhere else. They were so smart. I got to sit in on a seminar, and that really made the difference to me that Michigan was my first choice. So preview weekends aim to offer that kind of experience to more of our students. So we have preview weekends in astronomy and in earth and environmental sciences. Some other social science departments do their own variations of this. They bring students to campus to meet faculty and current graduate students. We hope to expand those. We also are having a conversation about how can we leverage those, right? If we could get more of those preview weekends in sync with each other when the students come to campus, it would be opportunities to meet each other and think about the community that they hope to someday join. Some of the other things we do is we attend national recruitment events. We go to 4 or 5 national conferences a year to talk to prospective students about the range of LSA's graduate programs. And we target many of these to be programs that have significant representation of students from groups that are underrepresented in those fields. Another program that we have and that we will continue is the use of fee waivers. And Paula Hathaway's here, who's our graduate programs coordinator. We offer those, but I have the impression that we don't give out as many of them as we would like to, right? So we want people to know that if you are out and you meet a promising student who you think would be a great candidate for our program, but they are wondering if they can afford the application fee, we can provide those students with a fee waiver. If they meet the Rackham Merit Fellowship criteria, meaning that they're from an economically disadvantaged background, from a group that's underrepresented in that field of study, that they're a first-gen US citizen or a first-gen college student, or if they've demonstrated a commitment to diversity. Those are the kinds of students we want to bring to campus to create a more diverse environment, and we can offer them a fee waiver to encourage them to apply. And then finally, as with most aspects of graduate education, we partner and collaborate with Rackham when it provides the most meaningful outcomes. And we're glad to say that 2 of the associate deans over at Rackham are LSA faculty, and we have a good relationship with them, and we plan to continue that. So let me talk about some of the things we plan to do going forward. First thing we want to do, and I kind of alluded to this, is we want to expand the preview workshops. Over the next 5 years, we want to expand these particularly beyond the natural science division. We think that there's real power in that campus visit. The second thing we want to do, and this is, I think, based on a lot of feedback that we've gotten, is some of you know, some of you might not know, that Advance offers a workshop that is mostly on the ways that implicit bias, which is a well-known concept in psychology, can affect the decision-making of evaluation committees. And in LSA, any faculty member who's going to be on a search committee for a faculty position has to take that STRIDE training. Well, in our conversations, it's called STRIDE, in our conversations about how to bring more equity and inclusion to our graduate programs, we talked about why aren't we having that same conversation in our graduate admissions? So it turns out that Rackham has been developing a program that not only talks about implicit bias, it also includes information about what Prop 2 really means, what can and can't you do under Prop 2. And we've found out that a lot of faculty have misinformation about this. This year, we are encouraging all directors of graduate admissions to, faculty directors of graduate admissions to take that training. And in future years, we're going to mandate that so that our admissions process can be more equitable. And then finally, around recruitment, we plan to expand our engagement with minority-serving institutions to create new pipelines to our graduate programs. And we have faculty who are currently working to establish these relationships. In our conversations about this, we've talked about you can't do this in a kind of scattershot way. You really have to make the investment over time to cultivate those relationships with the minority-serving institutions, which are sometimes called MSIs. And we also talked about those relationships are not going to work if the exchange is always one way. Like, we can't go and say, we're Michigan, let us tell you how to do things and you'll send us your students, right? So we really want to establish those long-term relationships and create opportunities for a two-way exchange of information and knowledge, and we think that those will provide important learning and research opportunities for our faculty and students as well. So one example is a new program partnering with the University of New Mexico. It's going to involve a speaker series. It's going to involve campus visits in both directions by faculty to meet with students and create connections between graduate students and faculty. And we're also talking about the possibility of faculty sabbatical exchanges. So we're trying to really create a rich pipeline that we want people to feel comfortable sending their students here, and the only way to do that is when they know us and they know what we offer. One of the things we learned recently is that as part of their DEI plan, Rackham has proposed hiring a new staff person to coordinate these relationships with minority-serving institutions, and we plan to partner closely in our efforts with them. To talk a little bit about the parts of our efforts that have less to do with recruitment is another thing that we have often heard is that GSIs who teach in the race and ethnicity requirement classes really want to have more training on how to do that well, how to create an inclusive classroom environment. And we sometimes hear that from people even outside of the R&E courses who recognize that as future faculty, they're going to be teaching in diverse classrooms and they want to learn all they can while they're here to be prepared for that. CRLT will be hiring a new staff person to support the training for faculty and not only for GSIs but also for faculty who are teaching courses who meet the R&E requirement. So we expect that will provide a really visible and accessible source of that kind of training. And we also understand that Rackham is going to be developing a series of events that will travel from college to college that will provide opportunities for community conversations around difficult issues. That's an informal setting, but it's another place where graduate students can get more background training and enhance the climate for conversations around diversity. The other thing that we've heard is that compared to some of the smaller schools, our process had fewer opportunities for graduate students to be involved during the planning process, and we acknowledge that and understand that. We want to involve graduate students meaningfully in these initiatives going forward. We also heard that graduate students met with Angela Dillard and Rob Sellers to express this to them, and we've gotten that message. Today is one example, and we're glad you're here, and we hope you'll get the word out to people you know. There's going to be more. So watch for that. We're committed to involving graduate students more deeply in our DEI efforts going forward.